welcome back to Kerbal Space Program 2. And in between the last episode and this episode, they released the first patch. So theoretically, there are a whole bunch of new bug fixes and stuff. And we're going to dive right in and see what happens with that. So in the last episode, we dealt with some pretty nasty Kraken problems. Trying to get a probe out to Eve. So in this episode, what we're going to do is we are going to land some probes on Eve. Now, the way we're going to do that might look familiar if you've seen my single-player playthrough before. If not, you know what, let me just... If not, this might be kind of interesting. I'm sorry, my single-player playthrough of Kerbal Space Program 1. I used a similar method for scouting the surface of Eve. But if you are not familiar with that, this is frequently what I do when I'm sending probes out to other planets and whatnot, and I need to check out the surface and everything. So I'm gonna make a little probe bus here that's gonna dump multiple landers down on the surface. So stand by for a few minutes while I build this out. Okay, so here we have our rocket that is going to drop 4 of those landers onto the surface of Eve. This booster is not especially balanced correctly, but part of the reason I'm doing a launch like this is just to kind of compare and contrast how the physics and everything are after the recent patch. So up we go. Got a little bit of roll. Let's see if we can cancel that out. Oh, we're listing a bit. Not quite what I wanted, but we'll see what happens. Frame rate is still abysmal. I'll go ahead and speed this up, and let me do an F5 for safety. I'll go ahead and speed this up and see what we get. Okay, so we have this ridiculous thing up in space now. We ran into quite a bit of Kraken on the way up. And we're fighting some Kraken right now, where it only wants to rotate in one direction. with or without the engine gimbal turned on. So that is a bit of a problem. The engine gimbal here only wants to go in one direction. I don't know if you can see that. Yep, that is special. So we're going to see if we can circularize our orbit here. Maybe. And yeah, see, we're losing a little bit of directional stability, and for whatever reason we can't control in the correct direction there on the y-axis. So that is a pretty serious problem. As you can see, I mean, you can see my control inputs. Well, you can't actually, but I'm trying to give, like if I turn SAS off, you know, I'm trying to give like full inputs, but it's just not working. And I've burned through the stage, so that's fun. Maybe this new stage will behave itself a little better, we'll see. This was supposed to end up being like a little bit of a trans stage, but we wasted so much fuel in that first stage trying to do like all these correction burns and stuff that we've wasted an absolutely ridiculous amount of delta V. This was supposed to be a bit of a trans stage, but now it's going to be our primary orbital stage. Because even with the patch, it looks like we're still having some pretty serious control problems. I know you're shocked. So let's get this thing orbital. Now that our controls seem to be working correctly in each axis. All right, we finally got ourselves in a good stable orbit. Now I'm going to go ahead and keep burning to escape Kerbin orbit. I'm going to do one of my patented, trademarked ghetto transfers to get us over to Eve. If we can target it. Not Gilly. Not Gilly. Not Gilly. Not Gilly. So Gilly is the smallest, crappiest moon in the solar system. And, I can't avoid clicking on it somehow. I mean, I don't even know what to say about that. I guess I'm going to target Gilly or something? I don't... Wow. All right, well, that's not optimal. Let's just get ourselves out of orbit around Kerbin. And look at this stupid orbit we ended up in. What a mess. All right, we've escaped Kerbin. Now let's see if we can... Okay, we had Eve for like half a second. Did you see it? Okay. Set target on Eve. Now we're going to do our patented ghetto transfer planning. They've changed the user interface for the maneuver nodes a little bit. I have to say, I think it's a good change. Okay, there's potential for an intercept over here. Not bad. That'll work. And that's not even a whole lot of delta V. So we're gonna keep that maneuver node, and we're gonna hit F5 for safety, and we're gonna warp to it. And we're gonna keep getting these messages about losing control. I'm not really sure why. Okay, now it is time to get our maneuver node going. This is an interesting little thing we've got going on there. Let's see if we can... Oh. Alright, yeah. SAS is going to keep us oriented to the maneuver node, so that's good. So let's pull up some throttle and punch it. And we should easily have enough delta V to burn through this maneuver node. And you know, the one of the good features that they added towards the end of Kerbal Space Program 1 was, of course, the maneuver node planner, the automatic transfer planner that'll create a maneuver node for you. That is not present, as far as I can find, so far in KSP2. So all of these transfers we got to do by hand. I've been playing KSP for long enough where it's not really too hard for me to do the ghetto transfers by hand. But if you are a new player and you're having trouble with that, it's not you. You know, that is it's more art than science doing those orbital transfers by hand. You can go online and find, like, there are some charts that'll show you like where the transfer windows are based on like the alignments of the planets and stuff. And that can make it a lot easier, but I'm way too lazy, so I just do it the way that you saw there. And we're going to go ahead and continue burning the rest of this and get ourselves into Eve's sphere of influence. Okay. We have an Eve intercept plotted out. We're going to hit F5 for safety, because we don't know what's going to happen there. And let's try this. I think there was a UI function where we could warp to the transfer? No, I guess we can't. Alright, I'm going to try to just time warp there and see if it actually stops me in the right spot. It did not. It sent me right through. Alright, that's why we saved. Did the F5. Come on. Alright, let's make sure we still have our intercept. And we do. Alright, we'll have to do it the hard way. Not really hard way, but... Alright, we're almost there. So this isn't the best intercept looking at our trajectory there. We're just barely going to skim the outside of Eve's sphere of influence, but we can make that work. Alright. So what I'm going to do now is just burn retrograde. And this should slow us down enough where we can get into a little bit better of an orbital trajectory. and we might get into our nuclear engine stuff. I haven't really talked about it, but one of the things I did with this design is, whoa, views being a little wonky. I made a nuclear stage here with some asparagus tanking. I don't know how well that's going to work in the current like patch iteration. Supposedly, a lot of other players are having some real serious problems with fuel lines and asparagus tanking, but we'll find out. I'm going to be cautiously optimistic. Hope for the best. Hope for the best. Well, let's keep burning retrograde here. Okay, orbit. That is good news. So now what we're going to do is we're going to time warp down, and hopefully it won't skip us past it. And we're going to lower our orbit a bit. So this will be good. This will be good, I think. So what I'm going to be hoping to do is I want to get into a somewhat low orbit around Eve. And it looks like we might actually have overkill on the Delta V, but I'm curious what's going to happen with that nuclear trans stage. After we dump the probes, I'm just going to burn that nuclear trans stage out and see how far it gets us. Because I'm curious if it's going to be smart about the asparagus tanking. But for right now, I want to get into a pretty low orbit around Eve so that I can dump those little probes out and use their RCS to lower the orbit for an atmospheric insertion. That's the plan. How that's going to work out? Anyone's guess. Anyone's guess. Hey, and there's Eve. That purple marble. It looks like we are actually going to burn through this stage. All right. And of course, unfortunately, we don't have any way to tell how much fuel is in these individual tanks. So that's not great. Gonna have to just kind of guess and wing it. But let's pull our periapsis down. I want to get down to about 115,000 meters or so. But you know what I might do? I may just get it down to like 200. Then warp to peri and burn from there. And just sort of step the orbit down. Yeah. Yeah, I'll do it this way. Okay, and so what we're going to do here, again, is I'm just going to lower the apoapsis down, kind of circularize into this weird, not quite polar orbit. Want to get it nice and low without actually dipping into the atmosphere, so that we can try to start releasing those probes. And you know what? Let me do something first. This will be a good test. I'm gonna F5 for safety. I'm gonna go full burn and time warp and see if okay. It is properly thrusting, so it looks like that is a bug that was fixed. In one of the earlier episodes, I ran into the trouble where my engine was draining fuel in time acceleration with full throttle, but it wasn't actually thrusting. So that wasn't great. But it seems they've addressed that, at least for now. Cautiously optimistic. Oh. Trajectory's wobbling a little there. So I'm looking down here. I want to get my apoapsis and my periapsis a bit lower. But what I want to do is I want to get into a position where I'm going to be able to get the probes down so that they're entering Eve's atmosphere on the light side. So I'm going to try and bring the periapsis down while I'm over here on the dark side of the planet. And again, I want to try and get the periapsis down to like 120,000 meters. Oh, and it's doing that to me again, is it? I can't tell. No, okay, it's giving me correct gimbal controls. That was a really annoying bug on the first stage. Alright. Save. Alright, so what I gotta do now is, I gotta figure which one of these... Is it not gonna let me move the stage? It's... Okay, it is. It was just being a little weird about it. Alright. Okay, moment of truth. We're going to F5, and we're going to try and stage one of these. Yeah, I know it's out of fuel. I don't care. Of course... No comnet. I should be in range of some relays. I really should be in line for some relays. I wish that it would show the comnet lines that used to show your linkage in KSP1. That is going to be super annoying. And what just happened there? Oh boy. Kraken attack. Let's switch over to this and see what happened. I can't tell. But this should be a relay dish, right? Yeah. And I've still got these other probes, and I've got this relay out here, ComSat. I still don't have... Wow, that is super annoying. Okay, well, my whole plan is now backfired and screwy. So I guess we're having some issues there with relaying, and for whatever reason, just switching and time warping a little bit like screwed up my orbit. So I'm gonna go ahead and do a reload. And I'm gonna do this slightly different. I'm going to use my main stage here to lower my periapsis into an orbital insertion. Then release the probe. Then switch back and raise the periapsis. I'll have to do it that way. All right, it's going off doing its thing. That is okay. So now we're going to raise this back up into a stable orbit. All right, so now we're controlling our little probe. I'm going to do some F5 for safety here. And try and ride it down and see what happens. And hopefully it doesn't screw up the orbital trajectory of our main probe bus. So far, so good. It's still in a stable orbit. Now, of course, the aerodynamic weight and balance. Perfect. Perfect. Now, I don't know if it's actually going to let me stage into the parachute. That's kind of the million-dollar question. Oh, but we'll find out. Let me try. All right. All right. Oh, uh-oh. Oh, no, I didn't want it. Uh-oh. Oh, I don't know how that's going to work out. Well, it at least let me deploy it. Let me check back the map and make sure that our... Okay. And let me switch this to AGL. And we're going to zip down through the clouds and see what we get. I'll speed this up a little bit. All right, we have our main chute deployment. That is a good thing. And it looks like we just barely missed coming down over the Explodium Sea. That would have been a little interesting. So we're going to just ride this down to the surface. Look at that. We've got a lot of scattered debris out on the surface. Looks like some large rocks and stuff. I mean, there's no way that that's any kind of an Easter egg. But kind of neat that we got like rocks and surface clutter to explore. Just about touching down. Boop. And we have landed on the surface of Eve. All right. So the insertion didn't quite go exactly how I had really hoped, but we can switch back and dump those other landers just the same. So I am going to save again, and I'm going to repeat that process a couple more times and show you what we get down on the surface with each one. Okay, so I'm back trying to do some orbital corrections here, and I'm running into that bug again where I can't get my controls to rotate me in the right direction. I am trying to align myself to go retrograde. And you can see here, look on the nav ball where I got my mouse. You can see here and here where I'm doing like full control inputs, and it is just allergic to going in the direction I want to go. It just won't do it. And I don't have SAS on, so it's not any issue there. And like I can turn SAS on and it doesn't get any better. It's just allergic to going where I want it to go. And doing it with throttle like just seems to make this problem worse. So this process of like correcting and realigning my orbit is taking, to drop these other probes, is taking quite a while. I've even like exited out of the game and come back in and everything, and it is just allergic to going in the direction I want to go. And if I use opposite control inputs to swing back around the nav ball the other way, again, it'll start to hesitate and like repel itself from retrograde anytime I get within like 45 degrees of the direction I want to go. So that's really annoying, and I think the Kraken has taken some. Yeah, see, like right now, even I can't burn back to get realigned into retrograde. Now I want to move the other way and get back into retrograde, and it's allergic. It wants to push me away from the direction I want to go. And if I spin all the way back around, which is what I'm going to try and have to do, I guess, it's still just not going to want to put me anywhere near the direction I want to burn. There's no obvious reason why. So, yeah, that's fun. Let me make sure my orbit didn't get all screwed up from that. Yeah, so this is proving to be quite frustrating. I'm battling the Kraken on something that just doesn't make any sense. And I mean, I'm not... Yeah, see, I was in regular mode. I switched to docking. Now I'm back to normal. So my controls weren't in, like, translation mode or anything weird like that. So I really don't know what the problem is. It's just allergic to aligning itself in the direction I want to go. And you can see here, it's got no problem zipping around a good, quickly into other random directions. But in terms of, like, where I want to be facing, it just doesn't want to do it. So that's been stupid. I'm going to struggle with this and see if I can get these probes down. Okay, so I've started running into a fresh new problem. So I'm all rotated out of alignment, but I've got my periapsis down, right? I'm going to stage to release a probe. Let me see if I can at least get it so you can kind of see. I'm going to stage to release a probe and watch it not do it this time. Alright, so there goes a probe. Now, I'm just going to try and rotate and align myself to burn back and stabilize my orbit. And what's happened the last couple of times is that my whole ship just freaked out, started flipping around end over end like crazy, and accelerated off in some random direction. And I found myself on like a 50 bajillion meter per second escape velocity out of the sun. And yeah, see again, my controls, I'm going full deflection to rotate down to the left. And it is just allergic to going in the direction I want to go. It's just allergic. If I want to go off in some other direction, it'll be fine, right? Like if I wanted to go back and do some more retro burn, that would be fine right now. But it's like the Kraken is telepathic, knows what I'm trying to do, and is fighting me on the controls. It makes absolutely no sense. It is just allergic to rotating in the direction I want. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit so you can see my frustration here as I'm trying to rotate down. I'm about 2 hours into clock time recording this episode now, by the way. I have no idea how long it'll be at this point in editing, but I'm 2 hours in. And all I want to do is just rotate down to get to prograde and burn to raise my periapsis. That's all I want to do. How long is it going to take me? So, that was great. All I did there was time warp and come out of time warp. And like my craft explodes and it's flying off in all these different directions. So, that's special. That is what I have been up against right now. Look at this. That's what I've been up against. Just trying to orient myself for a prograde burn to raise my periapsis. It's all I wanted to do. It's too much for the Kraken. Okay, so after a whole bunch more trial and error and Kraken fighting and everything else, we have our second probe down into a descent trajectory, and we've got our probe bus in a stable orbit. It took a little while. That was about another 15-20 minutes just to get to this point from where I just clipped. And we got a little bit of good wobble on our way down, but that's okay. That's kind of expected in a little probe like this. Ooh, what is that? Do you see that? That white spot on the ground that's glowing? What is that? Is that something? I can't tell if that's something or if it was just light reflecting off a cloud or something. I'm going to be coming down. I can't tell if this is over land or water. It looks like it's land. That might be a lake. Okay, yeah, that might have just been the sun reflecting off some, off of a body of liquid on the surface. Curious. And again, you know, with KSP2, I am constantly eagle-eyed on the lookout for like new Easter eggs and stuff. It's the whole point of doing this series is just to try and explore all these different planetary bodies. I mean, the odds. I know I got lucky on that first moon landing, but there's another one over there. But the odds of finding another Easter egg just like on a random probe throw like this are extremely small. But, you know, I'm trying. I'm doing what I can. So I'm going to speed this down onto the ground for you. Let me do another save just for safety. Okay, so it didn't let me stage into the parachute by, I'm getting the no comnet by hitting space or my go button. But as you saw, it did let me right click and manually deploy the parachute. So that is useful information for future reference. Let me ride this the rest of the way down. Okay, we landed another probe here on the surface of Eve. That is what I like to see. Unfortunately, the issue with losing the comnet and all that weird Kraken I was having with the probe bus is a little bit of an annoying showstopper. And I ran out the clock time, and I don't have enough time to finish landing those other two probes. I expected to be done with this well over like 90 minutes ago. So I'm going to end things here. But I mean, even though we had some Kraken, it was still generally a success. We did actually land a couple of probes on the surface of Eve. Lessons learned. Comnet is still a little glitchy, and reaction wheels and maneuvering on the nav ball are a little weird. So what I'm going to start doing is I'm going to start sending manned missions instead of probes. Probably just going to be one-way trips just to simplify things. But I'm going to start sending like manned rovers, to like Moho and Duna and whatnot. And start exploring that way. So make sure to check out the next episode where we start driving around. As always, thanks for watching.